Hello everyone, Tactical Edge here. Some of you might find this battle looking familiar, and yes, I did cast this battle on the recent Friday Night Fight tournament, and this was played between Ronin as Beastman versus Shogunek as Skaven. The reason why I'm casting this again is because I feel like at the time of live streaming, I didn't exactly do this battle justice, especially the tactics deployed by the Skaven side. So, in this battle replay, we'll be talking about the tactics, especially some brilliant maneuvers by Shogunek with a little bit more depth. Now for the army builds here, Beastman going for a rather wide army, a front line of Angor Spears backed up by 3 units of Chaos Spawns. There are also 2 units of Beastman Giants with their solid weapon strength of 700 and very good melee attack stats. They are backed up by 1 single unit of Angor Raiders. I guess there are some extra funds on the Beastman side by Ronin, so he just threw it into some regular missiles. Other than that, it's just a bunch of mobility, 2 units of Senegals over here, another one over there, and then 2 more units of Harpies in the skies. Flying around is also Malagor the Dark Omen leading the army with Doom and Darkness and Flock of Doom. Doom and Darkness is very good against Skaven as well, since they don't really have the leadership to tank out that leadership debuff. Now for the Skavens here, Shogunek going for a very skirmish heavy build, 4 units of Night Runners and then a very cheap and cheerful Skaven Slaves front line with some spears mixed in between. And then the rest are all mobility, very strong units of Rat Ogres, 4 of them in fact, and then 4 more units of Wolf Rats with poison. They are all supported by a Pack Master, providing a bit of cheap terror to the Skaven army. Regeneration also keeping these characters healthy even if they got dragged into melee combat. There's also the unique ability running with the Pack Aura on both of the Pack Masters. So they're providing the nearby Molder monsters, the Wolf Rats, the Rat Ogres with healing, keeping them in the fight a little longer. Leading the army is the usual, a Kick Claw on his hamster wheel with a bunch of damaging abilities. Cleansing Ruin, Storm Demon, the Unlimited Power Recharge ability, and Brass Orb for more AoE damage. That's it for the army builds, and now let's get the battle started. Battle begins and the Beastmen are rushing forward, and the Skavens will have to avoid them as much as possible, being inferior melee combatants. Most of their units are mostly just chaff, and the Skavens will definitely be crushed by the Beastmen as soon as they clash. So Skavens are just pulling back right now. Shogunek very wisely decided not to engage and instead drawing his resources onto one flank, as this flank over here is less supported by Malagor. And a Kick Claw can provide some pretty devastating spell damage against the Angor Spears. So all these Skaven mobility are just shifting back on one flank and pulling back to the other, as a Kick Claw here is just kind of teasing away at the Angor Spears with some Night Runners and dropping the Brass Orb, nuking down one of the Angor Spears as well. At the same time, Harpies are moving up, but they don't want to really engage against the Night Runners just yet, since as soon as they go into melee, they will just get countercharged by the Rat Ogres and take unnecessary damage, while the rest of the Senegals are just a little bit too far back behind to provide any support to these Harpies. The Chaos Spawns also being a little bit too slow to catch up to the Night Runners. The Night Runners having 49 speed even after the strength in numbers speed debuff, and on top of that, the Skaven Slave Spears are throwing themselves into the fight, sacrificing themselves to buy more time for the Night Runners to skirmish away. The Chaos Spawns, after punching down the Skaven Slaves, can continue their pursuit, but with only 42 speed, it will still take them quite a bit of time before they can catch up to the Night Runners. While over here on this side, there are some cycle charging going on with the Rat Ogres jumping into the fight, charging down the Angor Spears a bit, and then the Skaven Slaves are piling in, providing more support to these monstrous infantry, though the Sentinels countercharge are doing some noticeable damage to the Rat Ogres. However, a Kick Claw has managed to break off some Angor Spears with his Hamster Wheel's Terror and dropping down a bit of a Flancing Ruin, starting to work down one of the Giants. Rat Ogres though stuck in a fight against Giant and Spears. They are not enjoying this fight whatsoever. While the Night Runners kite away, the Skavens are actually almost capturing the point, soon getting victory tickets coming in. Though unfortunately it doesn't do them too much good, since the whole Skaven army won't be able to hold the point as they continues to retreat, just keep running away and avoiding combat, continuously using their skirmishing capabilities to whittle down the health of the Chaos Spawns and Giant. The only problem is that Night Runners don't have the most ammo at 14 volleys max. They can run out of volleys, run out of shots pretty fast, and they have to make sure their ammo being used on the most cost-efficient target giants, and of course Chaos Spawns being low armor can be pretty effective as targets for Night Runners. Now Packmaster and a Kick Claw leading the charge onto this flank has been very successful, managing to concentrate a lot of their mobility and crushed some of those Senegals and defending Ungor Raiders, allowing the Night Runners to have more space to roam around and continue to kite away enemy units as the Skaven formation shifts. Chaos Spawns being unbreakable will never stop running after their target, but they have taken quite some noticeable damage being worn down by the skirmishing fire over time. Senegals can try to charge in, but of course Night Runners being a decent melee combatant will also drag them down in melee combat, as more and more Skaven mobility are also piling in. Wolf Rats are maneuvering over to this side, threatening to work down the Senegals and also focus down the Chaos Spawns, while over here another Flensing Ruin from a Kick Claw, this time onto once again the weakened giant, but also there are a bunch of Chaos Spawns nearby, so quite a bit of effective damage. And also this one healthier giant also wandered into the AoE effect of the spell. So overall a pretty nice spell cast, but at the same time Malagor has been casting Flock of Doom constantly on blobs of Skaven units, especially the more expensive Night Runners, and accumulated quite a bit of damage. Almost 1000 gold damage just from the spells. Very impressive stuff indeed from the spell casting. While over here we have some over-chasing Skaven slaves, and the Wolf Rats are now chasing down the Senegals, but they themselves are quite isolated from support from the rest of the Skaven army. So this gives the Harpies, Malagor, and the rest of the Ungors a bit of an opportunity to just work down the health of these Wolf Rats and Red Ogres, especially when there's a Flock of Doom always ready to just nuke the leadership of the Skavens, forcing them to rout earlier. Right now, both armies are scattered all over the battlefield, the Skavens especially having more mobility units. The Wolf Rats and the Packmaster are chasing off some routed Senegals earlier and now needs to reconverge with the rest of the Skaven forces. Night Runners continues to kite away, but the Chaos Bones are just acting as kind of a meat shield, absorbing all these Night Runners' ammo before they can start shooting at the giants here. A bit of a sacrificial play, but this might be worth it. The Chaos Bones, after all, are unbreakable, so even if they're weakened in health by those Night Runners' shots, they can still dish out damage and tank in melee combat, bogging down a ton of the Skaven forces, while the rest of the Beastmen continues to reconsolidate their forces and try to push back any isolated Skaven elements, like these Harpies here, driving back the Red Ogres. One of them has been shattered, the other also being chased off by the Beastmen unit. Now let us go into a bit of fast forward, as both sides are just kind of grouping up their forces. Speaking of grouping up, unfortunately the Skavens blobbed up quite a bit and eat another Flock of Doom from Malagor, taking quite a bit of damage there. Now Malagor trying to keep these Night Runners on the run and drive them all the way to the white line, and this might be successful, especially when there's another Flock of Doom onto these Skaven slaves and Night Runners, draining what little remains of their HP away. Now we'll go back into fast forward as the Beastmen army is consolidating their forces around the capture point, trying to wrestle the capture point control away from the Skavens, and they have been quite successful so far as the Skavens are unable to contest the point, not having much units left to hold the line. Night Runners are charging into Ungor Spears, but they probably will get pushed back by dedicated melee troops. Though if a Kick Claw joins the fight, this is hard to tell, but a Kick Claw has his attention drawn elsewhere, charging into the blob of Beastmen here, but oh no, he is slightly stuck against the Giants, taking massive damage from the couple swings of the Giant. 700 weapon strength, most of that AP is actually one of the highest base weapon strength in the entire game, so nothing to scoff at. The Flensing Ruin is helping a kick to drain away the health of the Giants, but unfortunately this is not fast enough DPS, especially when there's another Packmaster stuck in this blob fight, taking massive damage from the consecutive swings of the double Giants. They are swinging quite fast, and on top of that, 65 melee attack. it is definitely more than enough to punch through the puny 30 melee defense of these Pack Masters. So these Pack Masters have been straight up routed by the shock damage. Oh no, straight up shattered from the shock damage of the double giant. Can't even regenerate and return to the fight, and now there's only one Packmaster remaining, nibbling away at the knees of this one single healthier giant, and instead it probably should have focused on attacking the weaker giant and try to eliminate it first, but right now the Packmaster is just taking more and more damage from the healthier giant. He is having second thoughts now, turning around to go after the weaker giant. But this might be a bit too late here, as both a kid and Packmaster is taking a ton of damage in the fight. And just like that, the balance of power swings in the Beastman's favor. Now the Skavens are on a mass retreat, while the Beastman army are having quite a decent anchor of a single giant and a healthy Malagor the Dark Omen, ready to provide support to the remaining, well, not much remaining of the Beastman army. Senegals and Malagor will try to run down the Packmaster, keeping it routing all the way to the white line, especially when the Wolf Rats that tries to intercept has been shattered away. Skavens, desperately needing this Packmaster, will send in a kit and some regrouped Wolf Rats, hoping to salvage this situation and save the unit. One of the giants has been finished off finally, but that came at a heavy price. One Packmaster was lost and a whole Flancing Ruin was cast on this giant when he has less than 100 health left, wasting most of the damage potential of the direct damage spell. I don't necessarily agree with Shogun's spell casting choice here. Perhaps the Wolf Rats charging in would be enough to finish off the severely weakened giant, and the Flancing Ruin would be better to cast on the healthy giant. But alas, I suppose Shogun wanted to secure one kill against the giants and then try to focus down the rest of the Beastman single entities, just like here, throwing in the Wolf Rats, the Packmaster, and a Kid Claw himself, trying to kill off Malagor the Dark Omen, but the giant and the Harpies are closing in, so the Skavens can't stay too long in this fight unless they want to get clobbered by the giant. Malagor has been successfully terror-routed, but the Skavens will have to let him go since the giant is in charging distance. With how weak they are, they can't really afford to take another hit from the massive monster. Another Flancing Ruin slowly working away the health of the giant, but also at a bit of a miscasting cost, damaging what little remains of a kid's HP. Skaven's only hope of taking down the giant is a combination of Flancing Ruin and the Packmaster, who has almost reached his heal cap. A kid is still around, so the Packmaster isn't affected by any leadership debuffs just yet. Still, despite having a more full HP bar, the Packmaster has actually less HP than the giant. So the Packmaster really doesn't want to go head on against the giant. He will be doing some cycle charging while it keeps retreating back to the capture point, trying to secure some more victory tickets and win the day. But it seems like things are going poorly for Skaven, as every time the Packmaster charges in, he gets slapped by the giant. The 70 melee attack is just way too much for the Packmaster to handle, and at this point the Skavens are preparing for their last stand. But as the giant moves in, the Wolf Rats rout, triggering a rout from it as well, leading to army losses for the Skavens. GG to both players, and Shogunate, despite the Beastman melee advantage in the fight, still put up a really good fight, really close fight against the Beastman Rush. Using the mobility to his advantage, all the skirmishing forces, pulling away from one flank and driving into the other with the concentration of mobility units, pushing back the Beastman army for a bit, at least getting some partial victory, allowing the Night Runners to continue to operate on a wider battlefield, and as a result, the Night Runners were able to accumulate quite a bit of damage value alongside with some of these Wolf Rats. And of course, a Kid Claw's Flancing Ruin has been a major damage dealer against the Beastman army, especially on the double giants, and accumulated a lot of value. The only unfortunate thing was really just the Packmasters not performing well in melee at all, and just getting smacked by the double giants, allowing the giants to accumulate a ton of value, smacking all the single entities of the Skaven army, and of course Malagor the Dark Omen draining away the health of the Skavens with the Doom and Darkness spell. The Senegals were whittled away in melee fights by the concentration of the Wolf Rats and the Night Runners, so they were not too effective. Really, it was down to the double giant beating down the Skavens and securing victory for the Beastmen. Otherwise, I think Skavens did win in the mobility department here. having a better control of the engagements, avoiding fights where it did not want to, and just taking fights when they have the mobility advantage. Just unfortunately, they didn't have any good tools to deal with the double giant in this build, and thus losing out on that single entity engagement. And yeah, that's it for today's battle. I hope you all enjoyed this little bit of a tournament multiplayer action, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.